This video is going to be a how-to video. Now, I know a lot of you people might think, well, I don't own a Mitsubishi and there's no point in me doing this. But knowledge is good, especially a lot of people that watch my videos, they want to get into working on cars and stuff like this. This job on doing a timing belt on this car will actually works for most single overhead cam Mitsubishi motors. The 1.8, 2.0, and the 2.4 liter, that includes the Mitsubishi Mirage, Lancers, Eclipses, and also Mitsubishi Galants. So I'm going to walk you through this. If you don't need any special tools, and I'm actually using the scissor jack from the car just to show people you don't need anything special to do this job, and it's a lot easier than, let's say, a Honda Civic or something like that. It takes, like I say, if you know how to use wrenches and you know a little bit about cars, you could do this job in probably an hour. So I'm not going to step-by-step walk you through. I'm going to walk you through what needs to be done, how to take it apart, and you know, you can kind of get the idea. So let me show you here. Of course, this is the car, and now scissor jacks are not very stable jacks. But like I said, I'm using the one from the car. So what you want to do is I didn't want to put the actual tire from the car. So get an old tire with a rim on it, put it under it, just in case something happens to this. It won't fall on the ground. Now, jack stands is perfect, but not everybody has jack stands. So the tools that you're going to need is basically just these tools. You might need a pair of pliers or something like that, but a 10 mil, a 12 mil, a 14, and a 17. Either a small 10 mil on a small ratchet, or just the wrench itself. It's got to be a 10 millimeter. And the reason that you need this is to actually take the bolts out of the water pump pulley, because it's kind of tight there. Now, you will need another jack. The biggest thing about doing this job here is taking the top motor mount off of it, but I'm going to walk through everything that needs to be done and show you how easy it is. There are a couple little tricks that has to be done, not just, you know, lining up the crank and the cam pulley. So let's get started. Of course, first thing you're going to do is jack the car up. The next thing you want to do is going to be taking off this plastic shield here, and they have little clips in it, if you can see those. Not sure if you can see those. I'm going to pull this over. Yeah, it's got the little clips here. So first thing you want to do is remove this this shield right here, so you'll have access to the crank, and you can take the belt off. But take that off, and then we'll start back up. Okay, we are back, and you see the little plastic pieces off here. Now, word to the wise, there are those little clips that are a pain in the ass to get out, but also on the top there's two screws which are 12 millimeters, one there and one here. This one's easy to get to. This is kind of a pain in the ass to get to. So from this point, once you have it off, this is what you're going to be looking at right here. You can get to basically everything here, that, well, let's say 90% of what you need to get off here. Next thing you want to do is you want to get a 1/2 inch socket ratchet, and you want to turn this. Now, this is your belt tensioner. You want to turn this, so if I'm doing it this way, you push it up like that, and then you want to take off your belt as you relieve the tension off the tensioner. Okay, so the belt is off, and of course you can see with the belt on there, this right here is going to be back, you know, that far. So when you take the belt off, it's going to come back till it's almost hitting the crank pulley there. So like I said, I don't want to do a step-by-step on everything that I'm doing, but I do want to walk you guys through how to do it. So down here, basically everything is going to come off. You need to, this is a 14 right here, and this is just an idler pulley. So you're going to take that center bolt out. That's just going to come out. So do that. And then this is what makes it so much easier than, let's say, Honda Civics. This bolt in the center doesn't need to come out. The only thing holding the crank pulley to the crank is going to be these four 12 millimeter bolts here. So you don't need an impact wrench, you don't need a big pry bar or anything like that to get it off. Because if you're doing this on a Civic, you gotta take the center one off, and it is a pain in the ass to get off. So what we're gonna do now is just go ahead and take this off here, and go ahead and take this off, and then we'll start back up. Okay, so got the tensioner or the idler pulley off, got the screws out of here. Now, one thing that you do want to notice is once you pull this off, you don't need a puller to get this off. All you gotta do is wiggle a little bit and pull it off. Now, just notice that this pin right here, make sure that you don't damage that pin, because it fits into that hole, and if you damage it, it's going to be a pain in the ass. So I can see the issue already. Well, if you can see up there on top, you see there's the timing belt, and then here on the bottom, no timing belt. So it's definitely broke, but I just got to figure out why it's broke. Another thing here, next thing you're going to do is you're going to pull off this timing belt, not timing belt tensioner, serpentine belt tensioner. And the way to do that is take this 12 out, and I've already unscrewed it here. It's a really long bolt there, all right? And you want to try to keep all these screws and stuff together. There's not a whole lot that needs to be taken off, but you see, just put your screws in there, put your screw, leave your screw there, and then right here in the center, there's a 14, and I've already loosened it up. So once you pull out this 14 is also going to be a very long bolt. Really got to get somebody who can film me doing this stuff. So this is going to come off, and you see that 14 is pretty long there. So it's only 2 bolts. So the reason that we're taking all this stuff off is, of course, to get to all the little timing cover bolts and all that. So next up, we're going to actually go to the top of the car, and I'll show you guys what you need to take off there. And like I said, you do need for this next step, you're going to need another jack. Scissor jack is fun to put under here to hold the engine up, because we're going to have to take the motor mount off the top. Alright, so now we're at the top of the engine. Now the only thing really that needs to be taken off up here is going to be this motor mount. Now if you can see down there, there's 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. Well, there's 1 bolt in the middle, and then the nuts on the side. Those, I believe, are 17 millimeters. And you'll have this little 10. This is just a strap, ground strap for the motor. Let me show you here. This. Now, once you take those bolts off, it's going to be a little finessing to get it out, but you also have to take off the mount to body bolts, which is 1 right here. There's 1 right there, and then there's another one way down in there. And those are all 14s, I believe. So what you're going to do is take your jack and put it under the car, jack it up on you might want to put a little block or something between the engine and the jack, and you want to jack it or twist the jack up until it touches the oil pan, and you get a little bit of pressure there, and that way this this motor mount won't bond up. It'll, the engine will be sitting at the same position. It will take some finessing to get this complete thing out of here because of this stuff here, but usually you can just bend this stuff over a little bit and it will come out. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts that you need to take out. Then we'll start up from there. Alright guys, well this is what it's going to look like once you get your motor mount off of there, and this is what it looks like, of course. Now, once you get the bolts off, if you've already done it, you know it's a pain in the ass. So the easiest way to do it is undo this. You don't have to unplug it or anything. Just undo it from here and pull it up to about right there. And that should give you enough room to get it out of there. But it is, kind of a little bit tricky. So next thing we need to do, if I can get my light to cooperate here, next, bastard, I don't like this light, but next thing we need to do, there's only really one more thing that needs to come off before we start taking the cover, timing belt cover off and changing the timing belt. You remember before I told you you're going to need a little tin like this, or you know, on a little tiny socket, is because the next thing you got to do is remove the water pump pulley, and those are 10 mil bolts right there. And as you can see, there's not a lot of room going in there. So, and also understand that when you get your wrench on there, this thing is freewheeling, so it's going to turn with you. So they're not really tight, but what you would probably, the easiest way to do it is take one hand over here, wrap it around, and grab it. And then use your other hand to take the 4 little bolts off. So let's go ahead and get that off of there. Alright, that was a pain in the ass. Now, those might be 10 millimeters in that water pump pulley. But if those things are tight, with that, how it rotates so easy, it's going to be a pain in the ass to get it off. Alright, so that's pretty much everything that needs to come off before, of course, just removing the timing cover and changing the timing belt. First thing you want to do is unclip this here, and you want to take the screws out, which you got a 10 mil here, you got a 12 mil here, you got a 12 here, and there should be another little 12, yeah, right there, hiding. So take those bolts off, and then the top timing cover will just come off, and then we'll do the bottom. Alrighty, guys, I got the top timing cover off here. Just take those bolts out, and of course we can see the issue right here. Now, I don't know if it's actually broken too. It might be broken too. I don't know. I'll have to take the bottom ones off. Another thing that I must, and I can't stress enough, that's a little bit different about this car, is right here you have all these little connections, right? But this connection here, and if you look at it, you can tell which one it is, because it will, if I get a good shot of it, this one right here. Now that actually, on this car, it's really weird, because that is your plug for the crank sensor. So it has internal wires that actually go into the plastic. It's built into the plastic on the timing cover, so on the bottom timing cover. So you want to make sure that you unplug this right here and be gentle with it before you start trying to take the bottom cover off. And that's basically what we need to do right now, is go back down here and just take all your little bolts off from the timing cover, which you can pretty much see all of them. You got you know, one here, one here, one here. You got one up here, right there, and you got a couple here on the side. So just make sure you check and double check. There's probably 7 or 8 little 10 millimeters in this whole timing cover. So just make sure that you get all your screws out. Don't force it off. If you have to force it off, more than likely you still got a screw there somewhere. And like I said, if you break this timing cover the wrong way, you will have to replace it if you break a part where the wire connects to the crank sensor, and I'll show you that when I pull it off. So just make sure you don't force this in any way to come off of here. Alright guys, well here is the here's the cover that I was telling you. This is the lower timing cover. Now this has the plug that I was telling you about at top. It's got wires that come all the way through here, and as you can see, you can't remove this wire. So it's basically made into the cover. That's why you don't want to break it for any reason, because you'll wind up having to get a whole new one of those. But the damage on the car is this right here. Now this right here is the balancing shaft belt. This was tore into, and this is the timing belt. And of course you can see here The lid also was torn too. It sucks because I only ordered this one, this timing belt here, the original timing belt. I didn't order the balancing shaft belt because I've yet to see one go bad. But I'm guessing that the regular timing belt went out and somehow grabbed onto this and broke this one too. So, this is the damage here. So I rotated the crank, and I rotated the cam also. Now the big belt runs right here, and it runs your oil pump here, and it runs your cam. Now the other one actually goes behind this right here. There's another row of teeth back there. Let me see if I can get this here. And this is a balancing shaft. Do you see that mark? That mark is basically the same thing as a timing mark. It has to be right there. So what you're doing when you're doing this, that has to be there. And of course, this is the tensioner for the small belt. And then over here on your oil pump, you have your pointer here, and this is counterweight. This is 3-to-1 counterweight. You see how it wants to do that? So what you want to do is, I believe it wants to, you go around one time and it wants to fall towards, you see how it's going towards that pointer, so that means it's right. Now if you have this off, if it's right here, and let's say if you do this and it's falling away, the problem you're going to have there is this is weighted. So if you don't have that right, you're going to have a horrible vibration in your car at certain RPMs, usually around 2,000 RPM. It'll just vibrate to hell and back. So right now I got to run and see if I can find that other belt. Now they did call me and said that the timing belt won't be in today, which I ordered the damn thing yesterday. So I got to go order the balancing shaft belt also. But that's basically how you do it. This video is running a little bit too long, so what I'm going to do is tomorrow when I get the stuff in, I'll make another video on how to line up everything, how to put the car in time on top and bottom. And like I said, do the first startup and cross my fingers that it didn't bend any valves or anything like that, because I cranked my neck so bad. My neck is sore right now. It feels like it wants to pop, but it's not popping, so I don't feel like doing the head gasket, but I will if I have to. But we'll catch back up on this tomorrow. Talk to you guys later.